Hello everyone and welcome to another video. First, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Amr. I am almost a 30 years old man. I've been playing fighting games for over 10 years. I am an 09er when you think about it. I come from Egypt. I live in Egypt. I'm not that special in terms of my gameplay level. I would like to think that I'm okay. I work a full-time job as an engineer and I'm a big supporter of the fighting game community. I was hoping this video could be the start of a discussion, and I wanted to talk about the African FGC community and its place in the global FGC. And when I talk about African FGC, I'm talking about the players that live in Africa, not players of African origins. When Capcom first announced the rules for the CBT 2020, they announced a number of tournaments. They announced a qualifying tournaments for the Capcom Cup 2020. And these tournaments will be played online. And they set a number of tournaments for the different regions. There were a lot of talks regarding the structure, the netcode, region distribution. A lot of people didn't like that the Middle East was playing with East Europe. And there were a lot of complaints about that and other smaller issues. However, there is one little issue that I've seen very few people talk about, and that is there is no African qualifier for the CBT. We are talking about 1.2 billion humans who lives in the African continent, and they have absolutely no way of even getting into Capcom Cup. And the worst part is that no one noticed. Me personally, I'm not a young man anymore. I understand the realities of life. And the realities of life is that this region is yet to prove itself. Can you just off the top of your head tell me one native African player that you can consider a top player? I'm fairly certain that for most people, they wouldn't have an answer to that question. Now, how does a region prove itself? Well, we have two examples from recent memory, and it is the Middle East with the birds, Angry and Big Bird, and I can take the example of Tekken, what Arslan Ash did for Pakistan. In both of these cases, we had players that somehow was able to get into a tournament and fight versus a top tier player. One key element that you have to know is that both of the players got to that spotlight because they were in regions like the Middle East or Dubai specifically. And Dubai or the Middle East, they have the resources to invite top players like Xian, Infiltration, and Ni. Once the unknown players started to do well versus these top tier guys, or even beating them in some cases, they started to get really good reputation. They started to get more exposure. Suddenly now people know about them. Have you heard about this amazing player from X that did Y? People from their scene starting to also look better. They got more sponsors opportunities. They got more donations. They were able to travel. But then the realities of the situation will once again hit us in the face, because for most of the African players or the African region in general, they just simply don't have the resources for that. Most of them can't go traveling. They can't invite top tier player to match against on a decently frequent basis, and they don't have the ability to travel not only because of financial issues but also because of visa issues. A lot of time when people talk about the scenes getting bigger and go to your local and all of that's true. But I looked at some of the African FGC communities, and let's talk about a country like Algeria. They have a decent amount of strong players. They have, to me at least, a strong enough scene. But since they aren't crossing over that much with the global scene, in the grand scheme of everything, they're not really that known. They don't get the exposure or they don't get the spotlight. I have known some incredibly talented people. I personally know a player here, an Egyptian player, who was maybe 15 or 16 years old when I first met him. And I'm fairly certain that this player, if he was in a better scene like the US, he would have been as good as someone like Sonic Fox. And I swear I'm not exaggerating on that. That kid was a genius. Which brings me back to the online tournaments and the CPT qualifier. The biggest advantage to the online tournaments is that the people that can travel can finally have the chance to compete. They can finally fight under the spotlight where everyone can see them. Have one of them make Capcom Cup and hopefully do a good showing and bring some exposure to the scene, and hopefully some chances will be given to their brother. Then more players will get into the game from the region, and it's just a feedback loop. An online tournament was the perfect opportunity for some region like Africa that very rarely have the opportunity to travel, to finally get some spotlight, to have a player from that region be able to qualify and prove himself. And it got me thinking, if Capcom didn't want or didn't think of making a tournament for Africa, then why couldn't the community leader have done so? Lately we have some great efforts like Zapunk and his Beta Bash, and we saw a tournament like the Beta Bash EU. So I'm just wondering, why not make a similar effort for the other less exposed regions like Africa, like Latin America or Australia? How about a Wednesday night fight North African edition or a next level battle circuit South Africa edition? If 30 years of living on this planet has taught me anything, it's that life doesn't owe you anything. You need to use what you have and were given and make the best out of it. All I'm asking is just to give the African players a chance. I hope that you have enjoyed listening to this discussion, and please let's start having a conversation around this topic. Let's see what we as a community can come up with to address that situation, because I feel like it's about time we have done so. If you have enjoyed this comment and want to see more like it, please consider giving a like or a subscription, and thank you for watching.